Hello, and welcome back to another episode for the Project Seed Money podcast. My name is Sharissa Bradley, and I am so excited today to be joined with audiobook narrator Pam Rossi. Thank you so much for being here and answering some of the questions I have for you today.
Absolutely. I'm very excited. Thank you so much for inviting me.
It's my pleasure. I want to just jump right in and ask, what got you started into audiobook narration?
Well, it probably started when I went into broadcasting, and it was not something I was going to go into, but a friend at college needed a female voice. He was a year ahead of me, and he knew me from high school, and he said, "Hey, can you help me out?" And I was like, "This is pretty cool." So basically, I started my radio career there, and didn't look back till COVID hit and when I was no longer on the air. So all those years being in radio is where I got started, because generally radio goes into radio people, disc jockeys, personalities, what do you want to call them? They do voiceovers. Hey, this client needs this spot talked about, recorded, blah blah blah, and that's how I started voiceover. So I did it on my own as well and was doing voiceovers. Usually I love doing not in so much commercials, but e-learning and explainer videos and those kinds of things, nonfiction kind of things. And then the next step was, hey, audiobooks was really becoming a big thing. And I said, you know what? I need to know how to do this. And I learned how to do audiobooks and audiobook narration, and kind of the same thing with the voiceovers. I love doing nonfiction. That's my jam. I love just doing a book that's a self-help or a history book or any of those kinds of things, business. I've done everything from vegetarian and Reiki to how to train your dog in 2 weeks. So I've done gamut of that. So that's what I do, and that's how I got started.
Oh, that's perfect. And you answered my next question, which was going to be about the genres. So do you specifically stay away from fiction, children's books, things of that nature?
No, if you want to hire me, I will.
Yeah.
We'll do that. But I will say, I've done children's. I think I only did one children's. I've done one poetry, and I've done 4 fiction. But I don't do it unless once I know what the book is about and I know what everything is involved in it. If there's a ton of characters and you want all different character voices, I'm just going to say, I won't do your book justice. So, I can recommend someone else or whatever. But, I only do fiction, or excuse me, fiction if it's not that extreme, because I don't care for that. I just don't feel confident in bringing your book to life by trying to do different characters, and stay away from accents completely. I won't do accents. I mean, a little bit tweaking or whatever, but if you ask me to do some major to accent, I won't help you. But I won't help you do the book, but I will help you find somebody. So
I think that's such a green flag, Pam, because when we know our strong suits and we're willing to play to them, and we also know this isn't the strong area, and we're willing to, the author community, the publishing community, we're so good at sharing people. We're so good at having our own network that it's oh, well, that doesn't really fit me, but I know this other person that fits perfectly. And I feel like that's such a green flag in 2 ways. One, that you stick to a specific genre that feels right. And 2, that you're willing and have a network to refer people to. Both of those things I feel like speak to the fact that you're someone who's reliable, who can build community and things that of that nature. So I think that's really impressive and amazing. And I want to know a little bit now about the onboarding process. If I was going to come to you as a client, and perhaps I have a nonfiction book, specifically in my publishing house, I publish lead magnet type books. If someone has a business and they want to, write that book that supports the business and helps them get in the door. So if we can walk through the process of what does that look like to get on your calendar? How long should I plan to be with you? How long should I plan before my release date? Things of that nature logistically. If you could help walk me through that with your process, I would really appreciate it.
Sure. Well, there's actually 2 ways to go here. So the first one is, if you want to hire someone like myself to voice your book, that's one way. If you want to do it yourself, that's another path. So you got to decide which way to do it. And I do encourage nonfiction authors to narrate their own books. In fact, I put a course together, how to teach you how to do your own book so it's ready for Audible, which is the largest book release in the world, actually. So that's what I do is, determine which way you're going to go. And a lot of times people are like, well, I don't think I could narrate. And you'd be surprised. If you have nonfiction, you really need to, my opinion is you really should voice your own book. That gives you a lot more authority. What the book's about. That's what your business is, basically. So you're passionate about it, and it's going to come across if you do that as well. So that really just gives you a step up if you do that for your nonfiction book. It's your voice. And people's like, well, I don't like my voice. Well, most people don't like their voice. But unless you have a major, a major lisp or something like that, sometimes that could even help. It depends what your story or your book is about. But there's always voice coaches if that's your issue and you want to go that route. But you don't have to, feel like I can't do this. And then, of course, you need to know all the equipment and all of that. And again, that I go through all of that. But if you want me to do it, then I basically work through ACX, which is Audible Exchange, Creative Exchange, which is part of Audible, which is owned by Amazon. So that's how ACX, that's how I learned, and that's the one I stick with mostly. I've done books for other platforms, but that's the main one. So that's what I know. And so you have to basically, as an author, you have to set up a profile, pretty typical. And then when your book, it has to be in print already. That's the first thing. Although I have people that try to do both at the same time, which is possible. You just can't put it up on the platform until your book is in print. But a lot of times people will buy a book if they see it's in Audible, and then they see that, okay, I can buy this. It's particularly nonfiction, because people like to highlight and like to reference back to it. So in any case, through ACX, you'll set up your platform, and there's a whole page, and which is where you'll put your cover and your about the author, all that kind of stuff. And it's all laid out. So as I start narrating for you, I can only go I can do an audition for you, and you can hear what your book will sound like. And then with Audible, I can't go any further until I first drop down in the platform the first 15 minutes. And that way the author can listen. That's a good chunk that you can hear, okay, this sounds great, or hey, she's mispronouncing this name, and I've said it 5 times already. When there's names that I don't know, obviously I try to find out, but sometimes, those things slip by. So those 15 minutes are the key to move forward. Once that's done, and usually that only takes, it depends on the author, how soon they can listen to it, but that doesn't take that long. 15 minutes is not that much text. So the voice narrator should be able to get that within, few days to a week. So, and then ACX, waits till the author says, okay, this is go. And then from there, I've already got the whole manuscript. And, as I do chapters, I record them, edit them, master them, and then drop them into the platform. I have access to your page for that title. And I just keep putting them in there. And, and then that's how they keep track. It's automatic. They keep track of how many words it is, which is what they determine how much your book will sell for. So they don't do by, well, it took 5 hours to listen to. Well, the author talked really slow or really fast. So they don't go by that. It's by word count. So again, that's the price point too that they go by. So everything is down to the second, how long it is. And then there's also, it's by per finished hour. So you need to determine, once you decide you're going to have someone else do it, you need to decide, well, will I go with royalty, which means a split between the author and the narrator? Once again, before Audible gets their chunk, or after, I should say, basically, and there's a split of what you share with the narrator. And then there's also a paid per finished hour, which means you're paid per the finished hour. And when they go by finished hour, because I could record, an hour's worth of text, but it may have taken me 3 hours because bloopers. You can only record so long because your voice might get tired. If you try to say, I can do this in 2 days, by chapter 5, you can hear it drops the energy, all of that. It goes down. You can hear it. And narrators know you should never do that. And we don't. It's hard on the voice too after a while. So you can pay per finished hour. So when it's completely done, if it is 5 hours, you already agreed up front. That's how much the finished hours the narrator gets. And then you're done. All the royalties stay with you. You don't have to share them anymore. Or there's the hybrid. You get a chunk up front. So we have some money up front and then a smaller share of the royalties. So there's 3 things to choose. And all of that is laid out when you sign up with ACX and they, have a contract that the author signs and determines, lays out everything that pretty much what I just said.
That is amazing. I've never heard it explained like that. You gave me so many amazing details. Like they are going to understand this, I think. And I love that you have a course for them to do their own too. I think that's so empowering. So absolutely brilliant. I just want to know, to follow this up, what types of questions should they come to you prepared to ask? Because you've kind of laid it out. It sounds like ACX is going to give them the contract. ACX is going to see that you've got this kind of go between middleman that's going to keep them protected and you protected.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wonder, what other types of questions should they be asking you, or even common questions that you get asked?
Well, if you're going to do, say your book is a sci-fi, and I would want to know, as the author, to the narrator, have you ever narrated sci-fi before? And, of course, I never have, because there's so many weird words in those things. They're made up.
And a lot of voices. Yeah.
I know where my line is, and I don't go over it. So find out if they've ever recorded anything that is in your genre. That's the first thing. And if they say, oh yeah, well, then say, okay, I'd like to know the titles, and so I can go and listen, or examples, blah blah blah. So that's the best way. I mean, when you hear it, so many times, and I hear this more and more, probably because I'm more aware since I've been doing this, but I hear so many people say, I started listening to this book and I had to turn it off. I couldn't anymore because the voice wasn't right. So in your head, well, you might know what your book might sound like. And so again, that's where auditions come in, and the first 15 minutes, because then you can say, oh my God, she gets it. She knows my book. This is the perfect voice, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the first thing, make sure they have done your genre before. And again, the time frame, when can I expect this to be done? Once, I put all the chapters in there, and the author can listen to them as I'm dropping them in. So they don't have to wait till the end. So they can, tell me, we call them pickups. They can send, me a message. Okay, in chapter 2, and a timestamp in 2.5 minutes in, you said a word wrong or something like that.
Oh.
So the pickup is I know where it is, and I can go back and records just that section, that paragraph, whatever it is, never just one word, because it won't flow, but I can re-record that, and then I can go back in and replace that file. So basically, when all the files are in, I hit done, and I can't do anything. I can't get to it anymore. I can't do anything until the author okays it. So it depends, how much time the author takes to review it all and say, perfect, or these couple of places here I need to be redone. And then it goes through quality check with ACX. And a lot of people don't realize, they think, oh, I can just do this and put it on ACX. Well, their quality control said no. And my early books, I did have 2 come back. It's like, this isn't meeting it. So I had to readjust my levels on different things and whatever. So, which is what I also do with my courses, show you where to set the parameters so it will meet their criteria. So once it's done, ACX says good to go. Then you're good to go. And then it's up to you to, where you want to. I mean, they'll put it on Audible, of course, and then depending on the contract, what it says of where else you can put it or not, that's all determined ahead of time, and then you run with it.
That's amazing. How long does it typically take to get on your calendar? Like if I have a book that just came out, right? It's out in maybe January or something like that, and I want the audiobook to come out pretty quickly after that. How long should I plan in advance to maybe have that onboarding call with you? Set those things up, and then also recording, production time, things like that. Is there a typical time frame?
Well, it again depends on how many words are in your book.
Sure.
That's the big factor. I mean, if you're going to give me a 10-page ebook, I'll have it to you at the end of the week. But, you got a 80,000 word book.
Yeah.
Again, most of us don't record more than, at one sitting more than 3 hours because it doesn't work for your book, any book. So it all depends on how long it is. But and I try to not have more than two books going at once. I mean, I'd rather have just one, do it, focus on the one book, and then move to the next one. So it depends what I have going already. That's a kind of hard question to answer.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. And I just want to be able to give my audience some sort of like, when should they reach out? And I wonder if I said like, if I have a book that I want out in 3 months, like, is that a reasonable goal to set? Or maybe you could tell me like some really unrealistic goals so that we could kind of plan from there. Like maybe, if your book is coming out in the month, like it can't be done in that much time. I know these things take, I would say a couple of months, but would you agree with that? Like 2, 3 months?
Yes, because you don't know how long ACX will take either for their quality
Right.
control. Depends how many books they get, although they're getting, books every day, lots and lots and lots of books they have to go through their quality check. I know they've tweaked it, so it's a little more mainstream. They may just randomly pull out for someone to hear, but you have to consider that too. Sometimes I've had books that have been sitting there for 2 months, and it's like we haven't gotten to two yet. And then I've had a book that just like 2 weeks, and it was okay. Your book passed, and you're ready. It's done. So again, it's kind of hard to answer that question. I'm sorry,
Right.
but
No, don't
give
be
yourself
at
the
all.
more time you give, the better. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. And I think that's so good because I think the last time I checked with ACX, it was like they had 10 days before they even have to pick it up. And then once they pick it up, they have like whatever they want to review it, but they don't even have to look at it for 10 business days. So, I mean, really, yeah, like giving yourself a month of just sitting in ACX. And if it comes out sooner, like that's amazing. But more often than not, we see things where they're holding it, or with what the things that are happening overseas, we see like the storage with AWS, like their storage
Yeah.
systems and the servers, and things are getting interrupted, and the interruptions are causing massive delays. And so even if they have a system in
Yeah.
place, there are these like outside of our control worldly things happening right now that may even add
Unfortunately,
more
yes.
Right, right. And like I deal with that with my server, like on my website, we use AWS for our emails. And we just see like, oh, well, shoot, that's not working today. And we can see that on a bigger scale where the books aren't getting shipped or the orders aren't being picked up. So we have to leave time for that, at least a month, at least. And then as far as your schedule and working with you, again, like you said, it's going to depend on the amount of words and that finished time. I love that you also are very aware of how long your voice can go. This is the first time any audiobook interview has brought that up. Like we don't want to stress it. So that
Right.
also is going to take time so it sounds consistent and good. I really appreciate that. I wonder if you've come across any red flags in the industry, things that maybe as these authors are interviewing for narrators, that they could say like, oh, absolutely, this is not for me. I need to turn and run. Any like even answers to questions or just, red flags in their contracts or their timeline or anything like that.
I've never actually seen a contract from ACX, so I don't know the wording, and specifics about it. But as long as you know, with any contract, make sure you read it through. I mean, it's pretty standard um, throughout the industry, but always, you can always have a lawyer look at it if you're not sure. But and they have a lot of help on ACX for authors. If you have questions, they're really good about that. I did find out that um, unless there's a major issue that like a server going down, if they're having issues trying to get to everything, that's the only thing. But um, I don't. That's a hard question because I don't really know their contract, ins and outs of it, other than the narrator side of it, and what I do see that part of it. Um, but just the red flags of just you know someone saying, "Oh yeah, I've narrated sci-fi before." Well, unless you get samples, don't take that as they have. Simple things like that. Protect um, your finished product. If you have someone that doesn't know what they're doing, then that makes a big difference. And if it keeps getting kicked back by quality control, that's going to delay you and everything. And that might have been a red flag too, even though it's at the end and it's a little late. But think about those things up front. And I apologize. No other red flags come to mind other because I don't know their contract very well. But
No, that's perfect. And you have mentioned a couple things in the interview, just like if they don't know like their genre, or like even with yourself, how you're saying like, I know my line. If you're talking to someone in an interview setting and they don't, and they say, "Oh, I've never done that before, but sure, I could totally do that."
yeah,
That's probably a
yeah,
red
definitely a
flag.
red flag. Yeah.
Right. And if they don't have anybody that they can like send you to the next person, like this industry is very community based. Like I have a lot of friends that are publishers and a lot of friends that do the same thing that I do, and that shows character. And if they're not having that relationship, then that might show like a not a great character, right? And
Right.
the samples. I love that ACX requires the 15-minute sample, but if they're not going this route and they are just going to hire someone who's going to deliver finished files, you 100% require a sample. Everyone in this community knows that they give samples. So if they don't, that's a red flag, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're answering the question because I was drawing a blank trying to think but yes, absolutely. Get samples.
Yes.
Referrals. Just, you want to hire a plumber. You're not going to just get Joe Blow and, to come in here and do your plumbing. You need some referrals and other work that they've done. So,
Exactly. And just like your home, like your book is like an extension of yourself. And it's got to be people that understand the vision, want you to succeed. And I love the option that you have with the royalty share. I don't think you mentioned this yet, but when you do the royalty share, it's a very low, is there cost up front, or is it a no cost up front? And they just do that royalty share. So that offers a no paywall opportunity to get into the audiobook world. And we didn't mention that, but when you do that royalty share, it's not this $5,000 entry, which is
right.
what it is pretty much across the board to do, like, you know, basic, and you're going to do a production, all these things, hire a narrator, like you're looking at a nugget. And so if you can have an option where you do the royalty share, like you were saying, that gives so much more opportunity to people who wouldn't necessarily be able to do it otherwise. So I think that's really amazing. And
With
not
that
everybody offers
thought,
that.
with that thought, I want to say when I first started audiobooks, I thought I need some samples and I need some experience. So I did nothing but royalty share. So you'll find newer narrators go that route. Nothing wrong with it. I did it myself for several years just so I could, get it, my business going. But just to keep that in mind, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. There's a lot of great narrators out there that do nothing but the royalty share. But definitely when that happens, you really, really want to know what they've done and samples of other works. So just keep that in mind.
And again, probably genre specific. Like if you're newer, that's fine if you're doing all nonfiction, but maybe newer when it comes to fiction, voices, lands, like you were saying earlier, like the accents and also locations. Like if you've invented a place, that word does not exist in any language, then you should probably get someone who knows how to, like, who's like a Tolstoy, like who's someone who does like J.R. Tolkien, who's like, people who are doing these made up places and really stick to a genre. I think if you're newer, would you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And I learned early on, especially if I had with the fiction that I did, we kind of it's really important. I do a spreadsheet, character, what accent they might have. I mean, I did one. It wasn't really like, a French accent or anything. It was just a simple little tweaking. It wasn't major. So just, and where, their age and different things like that. So um, if you have like you're just saying, a sci-fi with all these made up places and characters, you need some kind of a spreadsheet to keep track of who these are, and when was the last time they showed up or whatever, or are they just showing up in chapter 20? You kind of know these things. So um again, that's why I stay away from that kind of stuff. It's just like, my head's not, I can't keep
Yes,
thinking.
I like immediately I'm thinking of like Douglas Adams, and like the president of the universe was Zaphod Beetlebrox, you know? Like, like you gotta know these things. So
Yeah.
do you do when you do your narrations, do you do like a, you were kind of mentioning like the Excel spreadsheet. Do you do that for every book, like as you're doing it or beforehand, or do you have some people have said like they have the author do that ahead of time, like, or make a list for them, like have that prepared. Is that something the author should have prepared?
Um, it depends. I mean, nonfiction, I don't do that. It's just when you have
Right.
characters and that kind of stuff.
Right.
So that's the only thing. And that was just, it's something the narrator uses. It's just a tool that we use to keep it straight and to
Yes.
remember how did I, what did I think this character was? When I'm reading it, if it's
Yes.
not really described what she does, I mean, you have to go by the words. Then that's what I think she is. And whenever I did that, it worked for the author. They were like, "Oh, I love how you made her sound," or blah blah blah.
Oh,
And which is another thing. If that thinking time wise, when an author, and most authors, or excuse me, narrators do this, especially with fiction, they have to read the book first. So you got to think, unless they're a speed reader, there's that time to read through your book as well.
oof,
So,
yes. And you want that. You need
oh
that.
yeah,
They
yeah,
need
yeah,
to know fully who the characters are, the development.
yes.
I like that you brought up the age. For some reason that I don't know why, but that struck me like, oh yeah, because as we age, the voices change too. And so you might even have to like make an older voice or a younger voice. So the age, I mean, I don't know, because I've
Yeah,
never
I
this
had
brain even,
the
like,
last book I did had a woman, a grandmother, and I kind of made her voice a little more cranky.
yes.
So
So I don't write in fiction, and I would never have thought like of narrating in fiction. So like there's all these nuances.
yeah.
And as we're kind of digging them out, I'm like, oh, my audience needs that nuance. Oh my gosh. This has been such a pleasure. I just have well, I have two more questions for you.
Sure.
We have added you to the Project Seed Money directory, so I'm so grateful that we have you there. But I do just want to ask for people who are listening, where can they find you and
Sure.
how can they book your services?
Absolutely. As you can see on the screen, I'm Pam Rossi, and my website is pamrossi.com, and you can reach me at pam@pamrossi.com. And if you can't remember what was her name, just think of Martini and Rossi or something, and it'll come to you. I
That's
don't
so
know why I said that. It just popped up. Anyway.
no, it's so funny because I have like been making my own like little mnemonic devices to remember people's names so that I can keep track of everybody. So I just think that that's perfect. My last question for you is just again, the audience, they're female authors, they're on the fence. Maybe they just need a little bit of encouragement. And I just wonder if you can say something to just kind of help them keep going on this journey that they're doing right now.
Oh, absolutely. If you believe in your story or your book, whatever, if you believe it, then it's worth to keep it going. And yeah, you'll come up with some rough times, like, "Ah, I can't do this anymore, whatever." But as I've done in all my businesses over the years, it's just like one step in front of the other, one thing at a time. Just keep it going, and which I'm finding out because I'm also writing a fiction book right now. So
Oh my God,
Probably.
Sarah. We didn't even know. Next time we'll have to interview you when you come out with your book, and it'll be a whole different thing because
Oh,
you'll
yeah.
be on the other side of it.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and thanks for being with us today.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining me on another episode for Project Seed Money. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. And I will see you with another interview next week. Bye.